old classic boomerang or something, shouldn't we? Let's
And
do
we
it.
are live, everybody.
Hello.
Woohoo! Thank you
Yeah.
for joining us for this special Ampeg SVT Time Live. And we are here on International Women's Day celebrating all of us ladies. And we are joined by Tanya O'Callaghan, Emily Retsas, Nikki Monninger, and hello, everybody.
Hi, ladies.
Hurrah!
For joining us. So I'm just going to have everyone go around and introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are and where you are. I know that some of us are in some different places. So Emily, let's start with you.
I'm Emily Retsas. I currently play with Phoebe Bridgers, bass, obviously. And I'm currently in Smoky Bay, South Australia, but I live in LA, just here visiting.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear, you live in LA. Cool. And Nikki, what about you?
My name is Nikki Monninger. I play with Silversun Pickups. We've been together for 22 years now. And I live in LA, and I'm excited to have this talk with you guys.
Awesome. It's Tanya.
How's it going? My name is Tanya O'Callaghan. I'm from Ireland. I'm a freelance bass player that plays with a bunch of different bands. Past couple of years been Dee Snider, Steven Adler, the Riverdance, and just recently Whitesnake. So it's been a hell of a rock and roll journey. But yeah, I'm from Ireland and I currently live in Joshua Tree. After several years in Los Angeles, I escaped to the desert.
Congrats on the gig.
Thank you, dear.
That's awesome. Nikki, I just noticed your 930 Club cup.
Yeah,
I carry this around everywhere. Actually, I broke mine, and our singer Brian was kind enough to give me his. So I love 930 Club. Every time we go there, they shower us with gifts, and I'm always very receptive, and we love playing there. So here we are.
The good cup. They have great cupcakes.
Yeah, great cupcakes, great socks. Great.
Yeah, I have some socks.
Great
I have
meals
mug.
there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
they're one of our favorite places to play.
And that is in DC for those
Yes.
that don't know. Have you have Tanya or Emily? Have you guys played there? The
I did. Yeah, I did years ago.
Cupcakes, but I'm not sure if we have. Maybe.
I definitely remember coffee. Yeah,
you would remember the cupcakes. That was one of the last
cupcakes.
Places we played before the pandemic stopped us from playing.
Before the zombies came in.
But yeah.
So speaking of zombies, what has everyone been up to? What's everyone been doing? I mean, Tanya, it sounds like you've still been busy. You've still been playing. You've still been out there.
It's actually fucking ironic. Like I've never been busier. The pandemic is weird because as all of us been on the road so much, but I also work in a bunch of different projects. I work really heavily in like animal rights and plant-based projects and stuff. So I kind of use the time to finish this whole filming project of a TV show I have with Derek Green and this documentary I started. So the start of the pandemic was all that. And then I was like, well, I might as well do the music for it. So started writing a bunch of music for that so I could put my own music in the project. And then a lot of session stuff, which was interesting that there was still studio work around. And then Steven Adler went out in the middle of it for a couple of months. So there was a little bit of touring. And as we all know, kind of everything got pushed and pulled and, rescheduled. And then a couple of months ago, Whitesnake called, I had to dive into that. So it's actually been ironically really busy. But yeah, it's wild because it was, you got to try and look at the bright side of everything in life, right? So it was time to pause and not be on the road. And as all of us know, touring heavily, it was actually kind of nice in a weird way for a bit too long now, but the beginning was like a nice break. So but yeah, I used the time pretty wisely and kept super busy, which was fantastic. And now we're getting back at it.
Yeah. What about you, Nikki? You were gonna say something.
I don't even know what I was gonna say, but I have 9-year-old twin daughters, so I was spending a lot of time, home. Well, basically homeschooling them, Zoom schooling them. So
Awesome.
it was great to have the time off to just be there, you know, with them. But in the past 8 or so months, we recorded an album, and actually I just listened to the final master this morning. So it's exciting.
Awesome.
We have a new album coming out, and I don't know when it's
Congratulations.
coming out. Thank you. But it was just interesting, you know, coming back into it. Like we recorded this album with Butch Vig again, and just
Cool.
like approaching like how do we hang out again, you know, with COVID, and you know, making sure everyone's safe. And you know, we waited until everyone got vaccinated and then felt comfortable, you know, coming in together. And it was amazing. It was good to be back. You know, I just, through this pandemic, I really kind of shut in with my husband and kids. And so it was nice to open back up to my other family of Silversun. So we're super excited about our album. And then we'll see if we can tour again, or you know, taking it day by day, but we're excited. And it was nice to take a step back and just like slow down life for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I've been up to.
And is it the same?
For the
Is
past
it
week.
the same band that it was like when you guys started 22 years ago? Same personnel?
Well, it changed a little in the very beginning. It changed a little, but we've been with who we are now for the past 20 years. So
just 20
I can't
years.
believe, like, yeah, looking back,
Amazing.
I can't believe, but they're like family. So it's like, I don't know if we would ever, you know, break up, because you don't break up from your family. And but we're just grateful that we can still do this and not, you know, have a real job. So, you know, I always say, like, we're playing music, you know, we don't work music, we play it. And it's like a, you know, a real privilege to be able to keep doing this. So, and it's nice. I get along with the guys, and it was like nice to see them again, because I really, you know, didn't see them either during the first year. I can't believe all this time has passed.
It's wild.
But it felt, I think, and also, you know, we did a short tour in November in between recording, and it was so nice to get out again. And I think that the fans at the places we played were like, everyone was so appreciative. We were appreciative to be there, and they were appreciative that we had come back. And it's just, you know, just re-looking at everything and being, again, appreciative of what we have, and we're grateful that we've been able to last this long. Because if you had asked me, like, if you had told me, like, when we first got together, you know, you're going to be together 22 years later, you know, I would have been like, let me just.
That's amazing, though. That's rare. Like,
it's
a long, awesome relationship.
And I think it's just because we started out, you know, as friends first, and grown as friends. Anyways, I'm talking too much, and I'll give you guys a chance to talk too.
No, it's amazing. Congratulations on all the awesomeness. It's very very rare that happens, and to have longevity like that with a band. So congrats on all that.
Eva, what's going on with you? When are you guys going back out? I'm like, I gotta ask the hostess at the mostess here.
Yeah. Well, there's the only show announced with Pink right now is in May. She's doing Bottle Rock.
Oh, nice.
So are we. We'll see you there.
Yes, awesome.
If it happens, it should happen.
It will.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. So that's what's happening, and that's all we have right now for that. Otherwise, I'm a free agent. Yeah, we'll see. That's all we have for that. So otherwise, I've just been doing just really having fun with my record. I released a record a couple months ago.
Bravo.
Congratulations.
My own thing. Thank you. So I'm thinking about putting together some shows maybe, and just doing like
very cool,
doing some shows in support of that, just for fun. And we shall see. I mean, again, day by day, just taking it step by step, and hoping for the best out there, you know.
How hard is it to finish your own record? It's like that thing, we all have a hard drive full of like songs we must finish someday.
Yeah, well, one of my pandemic, like when things shut down, I was like, cool, well, let me just take some courses that I've never really had time to take. So I took a music production course, and my songs ended up becoming my home for the course. I had to like turn mixes. So that was a good catalyst for me to actually finish song ideas, because I had to turn something in. So that ended up like a lot of those songs ended up, I was like, well, I have all these songs. I'll make a record out of it. So it was good. Like there's, silver linings, the little positive things that come out of the time that we've had, which is going to just about 2 years now this month.
Jesus Christ.
It's crazy to think.
Yeah,
Crazy to think.
crazy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my God, 2 years.
And Emily, you did SNL. I mean, you've been doing some awesome stuff. You've been busy.
Yeah, the pandemic has not been quiet for me. It's been busier, I think, than ever. Like I think Tanya was saying. So we did SNL a year ago, I believe, and that was like kind of a crazy dream, but very deep in all of COVID. So it was a pretty crazy experience. I think it was kind of like a half audience as well. So it was like not even really performing to anyone. No friends, no family, no after party. But yeah, it was amazing to happen regardless. So yeah, super special moment.
Was that your first time? Cool. Was that your first time playing it?
Yeah. Actually, I feel like TV has really picked up at least for me in the pandemic. We've done so much TV over the last kind of 2 years, which has been really fun because it's such a different thing to playing live, obviously. So yeah, I feel like I did Ellen, I think a few months ago, and Jimmy Kimmel for like the second time. So yeah, it's been really busy.
Nice. Good for you. It's funny how it seems like a lot of people actually have like you're all saying, like being even busier, right? I mean, I hear about people who have just thrived during the pandemic, and who would have ever expected it, right? But I was talking to a drummer friend yesterday that never stopped touring. They literally just toured through the whole time.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I know.
I think if the hustle is strong in you, nothing stops.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of the depending on where your fan base is too, I think that some people were able to keep going because there are some parts of the country where they just kept it going.
Yeah.
They didn't close the same way that a lot of us did. So
it's gonna be amazing though, like the news shows when you go back out, the energy, because people have been so pent up for 2 years. It's gonna be wild. It's like,
yeah, it seems like people are ready.
What did you say?
I was like, I find just playing is kind of an emotional experience now. Like at least for us, when we went back on tour last year, I was like this thing that got taken away from you as a musician, and then you get to kind of go back out and experience that again. You're kind of like, oh yeah, like I remember why I love this and why I do what I do. It's such a weird thing to not do it for so long. Yeah.
You take it for granted, right? I mean, I had a gig last month. It was I mean, I'd never had so much fun in rehearsals. Like, it was the first time that I had actually rehearsed with a full band in a long time. And I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And just something like rehearsals, which is usually kind of a grind, was so much fun. And I was like, oh, this is why I was put on this planet. This is great. Can we do this more? Because it's like, it's all about connection, right? And music brings people together. And when you're not just with an audience, but with the people on stage with you, rehearsing these songs, making this music, it's a real connection of hearts and souls. So we forget about that. And I was like, can we rehearse more? This is great. Let's rehearse.
All right, we'll all.
Yeah, it's the first time we're like hanging out after rehearsal. Like, so what do you want to do?
We'll all be excited about sound checks again. We're like, yes, fucking sound check. I used to hate these. Now we're.
Yeah, and all the little, like the ritual of it, I think too, right? Like you do sound check, and then you all like go get a bite to eat afterwards, and like the sort of the ritual that comes with having a schedule and having things to do and places to be and feeling like you have a purpose.
Exactly.
You have a purpose in the world. So speaking of purpose, let's talk about bass for a little bit. Was there a moment when each of you decided that you were going to become a bass player, or what was that moment that you were just like, it's bass is it, I'm a bass player? What do you think?
Well, in Silversun, I mean, Brian and I were roommates, our singer, and I had bought a bass from my best friend's brother, like just previously, but I never decided to be a bass player until, well, he played guitar, and I was like, well, I can play bass. And then I pretty much went, nonstop from there. And then, I always, in every song, I'm always attracted to the bass line. I'm always listening just for the bass line. And it's just something that I previously had always been interested in, but that was just something that gave me the kickstart where I was like, okay, cool. You play guitar, and then, I'll play bass. Okay, that's now half the band is established. But yeah, I think that was the moment when it was needed, because before I always played, piano or guitar in high school. And so, but that's what always drew me into songs and continues to draw me into songs. That's what I'm always listening at in a song and what makes a song more interesting to me. So that's my story about that.
Did you play guitar and other instruments and other bands? Were you in bands in high school?
No, but I always knew I wanted to be in a band. I was actually our drummer, Christopher, I was in his band playing keyboard. But I was always playing, but just by myself. I didn't know how to initiate really being in a band. I don't know. I just never had done that before. Maybe I was too shy to do that, but I knew that's what I wanted to do, to play music for a living. And in college, I majored in art and art history, because I knew that I wanted to study that then, because I wanted to go into music. I don't know. In my head, like, things were like, I wasn't doing them, but I was like, that's what I'm going to do in the future. And that's sort of what happened. So I'm lucky. And now I just look forward to playing the bass. And well, now here we are 22 years later. So I'm still doing it. Yeah. And I enjoy going, like, my husband and I will walk with our daughters to school, and I'll come back, and then I'll just play the bass for a little while and just practice things. And I do it because I like to do it. So now I don't have to do it where I'm working a job and then I come home and rush. Now I just constantly am grateful that we get to do what we do, because I know that a lot of people don't just get to spend their time doing this. So no, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Tanya, how did what about you
guys
yeah. Was there a moment, Tanya? Was there a moment for you?
Sorry, I had like a weird delay. Well, it's kind of a total 180 for me. Like, since I was 8, I worked, actually probably 6. I worked in animal rights. I was in a rescue shelter. I was like a vet's assistant, 10 years, just animals. And I was always organizing. I'm from a very musical little town, never played, but I used to organize these little nights, like gig nights with local bands to raise money for the animal shelter. So I was always around it. And then I was singing background vocals in a band because they just needed a singer, even though I'm not a singer. And I remember the first time I got up on stage, I was like, oh, this is kind of fucking cool. I like this. This is fun. I like this performance thing. So that kind of got it in my blood when I was about 17. And I kept just like organizing these music nights. I was surrounded by music. My dad's big into music, very musical town. But I never actually played until I was about 17. And I actually I wanted to be a drummer, and I took a couple lessons from a local drummer, and I was, couldn't afford a kit, and it's kind of hard to be a drummer when you don't have the gear, and got a super cheap kit. And I wanted to join a music course in town. So I dropped out of school to become a musician before I actually fully played an instrument, which is still one of the funny stories in my family, because I wrote them a very dramatic letter saying that I'm leaving school. I want to be a performer. And they were like, well, you don't play an instrument. That's a bit weird. Like, I know, but I just know. So anyway, long story short, I went to this local music course, and I was going to do drums, but then I saw a local bass there from my hometown, Niall Masterson, play, and I never really thought about bass, to be honest. I always was attracted to rhythm in general, and I guess I subconsciously bass, but he was playing all this cool stuff that made me bass stand out. He was playing like Primus and Jacko and all this like melodic harmonic stuff. I was like, oh, that's a cool fucking instrument. Let me do that. So I jumped in on that. And then that same month, my cousin's very heavy metal band were like, we need a bass player. So it's like that thing, like, we have a guitar player, we need a bass player. Here you go. I was like, okay. So handed a GLL bass and tuned down to C# and joined the really heavy metal band. And that was it.
Wow.
But yeah, I was always like, I never played any other instruments. I was just straight to bass. So it's like bass purist. But yeah, and then I was just completely addicted from the get-go, and sort of jumped into a lot of bands early on. So that was like my teacher, just to be in bands. So I was in multiple bands, and it was like TV house bands and wedding bands, the corporate grind, all of that. And then decided to try my luck in America. Cool. But yeah, I guess it was just very appealing. As soon as I saw someone play bass, it really stuck out when I saw it being played a little bit different and not just like straight up rock and roll or root notes, which I completely ended up in that realm, and I love it. But yeah, it's a feel thing, like, as bass is such a core instrument that it's always appealed to me. I mean, you can literally feel it in the ground. It's like the sub world. So yeah, I think it's just it's in your blood, right? Being a bass player.
Yeah, awesome.
I agree.
And Emily, what about you?
Similar, I think, to you guys, where like I grew up kind of playing piano, but I'm from where I am right now, a tiny little town where it's like 200 people. There's no music store. There's definitely no venues. And there were no bands really. So my friends and I kind of grew up listening to like grunge and 90s, and all my favorite bands were like, Sonic Youth and the Breeders and Smashing Pumpkins and like the Beatles and things like that. And I was like, wait a second, I seem to think that the bass player is the coolest person in all of these bands. Definitely not a coincidence. And yeah, and I was the worst guitarist, so my friends were like, you got to play bass. And I was kind of like mad, but I was like, it makes sense, like they're the coolest person. I'm really drawn to like those lines, and I'm not really, having to be like the front of the stage, because I definitely am no singer by any right. And yeah, so started touring with like my friends when we were like 15, 16, and like playing in punk bands and cover bands, and moved to like the city, moved to Adelaide. And I was like, I keep trying to like do other jobs, like working in the music industry at labels and stuff like that. And I was like, I just want to play. I always knew I wanted to just play music and be in a band, but I hadn't really seen anyone I know doing it. And I was like, I'm just going to, like, similar to Tanya, I'm just going to move to LA, try it out, see how it goes. And I just played with, even in Adelaide, I played with anyone who would let me, and same thing in LA. So yeah, I think it was just, I kind of knew that was what I wanted to do. And I saw all these amazing women playing bass as well. And I think that really kind of helped establish that it was a thing that you could do if you kind of put your mind to it. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, Eva, you have it in your blood, literally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it started, I'm second generation bass player. My dad was a bassist, and part of he was from London, and part of that whole scene back in the 60s, and was in his first band with Ron Wood. He was in the Rolling Stones. He was in an early version of The Faces with Rod Stewart, recorded with Eric Clapton, and jammed with Jimi Hendrix. Like, he was just part of such an incredible time in music in the early mid 60s in London when it was all happening. His bands were playing shows with The Who before they were The Who. There's pictures of them all together at 15. And it was when you could drop out of school back in the day and just play music. And Tanya, you're lucky that you got to do that. I wanted to do that. I was like, well, Dad dropped out at 15 or dropped out of school, could do it. And
I stirred the pot massively in doing so, but in hindsight.
Yeah, but you did it. You went for it. And in my head, I was like, I can do this too. But it just like, I was like, oh yeah, well, it was a different time, a different place. And I took a different path. I ended up going to school and doing things a little bit differently. But I grew up with it. I mean, there was a bunch of basses in our living room and an Ampeg amp, and those were all my first memories. Yeah.
I love it. It's interesting because, though, in general, especially as teenagers and as kids, we tend to rebel against the parent thing. So for you, it's like music was there, and then you're like, I'm kind of not going to do that because you do it, Dad, and then you come back to it.
Well, yeah, and when I showed interest in it, like my dad was like, no.
Stay away from the music.
Don't do this. And interestingly, because that made me want to do it even more, right? So then that was my like, oh, well, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just watch this. So yeah. So it's just always been around, and it's the feel, right? Like what you're talking about, like feeling it. Like I just remember my earliest memories of like my dad playing like stand-up bass, and it's like I'm sitting right next to it, and you just kind of feel the vibrations. And
do you ever play stand-up bass now? Do you play?
I do. Yeah. I actually have his. You can't see it, but I have his stand-up in the room right next to me.
Awesome.
And it's bass from the 1860s. It's this really old, beautiful stand-up bass, and there's just nothing like it, the way that it feels, because it's just a real organic. It's an organic sound, where the sound is coming from the body itself, right? Like it's resonating, as opposed to like an electric or something. Something about these acoustic instruments just really, really beautiful.
Yeah. Do you feel like his playing has like influenced your style as well? Or do you feel like you kind of like went a completely different way, I guess?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm a rocker at heart. I grew up with all the like listening to his bands, and he was in a band called The Creation and the British Birds, just real kind of, of that era. So, and I loved like the Led Zeppelins and that kind of stuff. So, I feel like just because I'm just influenced by that era in general.
Yeah.
And I think in turn his playing, and my family, he started the Cat and Fiddle in Hollywood, British pub.
Oh, best chips.
And he was a real jazz head. He loved jazz. So we had a jazz band that played every Sunday night. It was like the same band for 20 years. And he would sit in with the jazz band and play all blues every week. So I had that side of it as well, right? I had that side of it, exposure, and these real old, like these old cats, like these old bebop guys that still called this bass a Fender bass, right? Like, because it was like the only electric at the time back in the day. So when they referred to an electric bass, they just called it a Fender bass.
The Fender bass, that's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it was cool. It was cool to get a little bit from a lot of different people, and So
I was just admiring your the micro VR. Is that what that is?
Oh yeah.
I have.
Yes.
I have one too, and I love it. They're the cutest things, and they play really well. I can't have my big 810 cabinet in my house, so that is
why not?
Great
make a wall.
I could
make a wall.
Our house is very small.
It has to be a wall. I was thinking of that the other day. I was like, can the amp be a wall instead of a wall?
Right.
Like a wall of bass.
Room divider of amp.
Yeah, I love those things, and they pack a nice little punch. I mean, I've seen people playing them at larger shows too. Like I think I saw fellow Ampeg artist John Button playing with the Who. We were doing a benefit with them. I think he was playing one of those with the Who.
It's crazy though. The lightweight. The lightweight gear that's coming out, like I was just laughing with my friend back home about this the other day, when you're in like your first bands back in the day, they used to carry a rig that like just ridiculous to play in a tiny pub, and it weighs your house. But nowadays, like these tiny little heads that fit in your handbag, and they're pick them up with one finger, and the pack a punch. It's amazing.
So what do you what is the best piece of advice that you've gotten from somebody over the years? Like, what is something that you remember that you keep in mind that you really carry with you that has really helped you?
I'm going to curse very good. And sorry, I'm Irish, I curse a lot. I had a bass player in my hometown tell me, fuck the begrudgers a long time ago. And I was like, you're right. I was like, yeah, because at the, of course I have been very lucky to tour with nothing but bands of brothers and for the most part support. But of course, as we all know, women in the music industry, there's begrudgery around and there's this, that, and the other presumptions. And there was a little bit of that early on, especially when you're starting and, you're learning your ways. And there was a local bass player passed away a couple of years ago, unfortunately, but he used to loan me basses before I had them. And he was very encouraging. And he just used to always tell me, fuck the begrudgers. I was like, it's brilliant. Sorry. Wow. I cursed a lot. I'm Irish. I have a hall pass for that.
Tanya, do you only play Fender basses? I think that's all I see back there.
I play Sadowskis. They're all Sadowskis.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. And I have my own Music Man for the Riverdance tour, and I do have one Fender and U-bass, but all Sadowskis. Yeah.
Is that a short scale? That Music Man? Is your Music Man a short scale?
No.
Oh. I guess it looks.
It's just far away.
Just further away. Yeah, there you go.
The ones out there are far away. Yeah.
Hey.
Do you still play with Riverdance?
No. I did 18 months around the world with the Riverdance, which was a wild experience. Because theater, I don't know if any of you guys have done theater, is very different than like rock and roll touring or pop touring. There's usually 9 shows a week because you have matinees and everything. So I did a world tour with them where we did Europe, China, North America, and it was insane. But that's when I was on the 5-string, because they wrote all the bass parts to match the uilleann pipes, the Irish pipes that everyone thinks are bagpipes, but the uilleann means elbow in Irish, so they're the ones that people play with the elbow. But yeah, the bass parts and the uilleann pipes were so complex that you had to play 5, and I like 5-string, but obviously I play mostly on 4, and I hip shot. I've always have hip shots on my 4 strings because most of the time you only need to go down to D. But I tried everything to not be on a 5-string for that tour, but the music parts were so complex across. I was like, okay, I can't get away with this. I tried to tune a 4 to a 5. I was like, all right, back on 5 it is. So retrain the brain that's not E you're hitting. It's like, oh, fuck
right. Right.
But yeah, there are a lot of Sadowskis in my life. Roger Sadowski is like my bass dad.
Oh, cool.
Do you have different tunings? Are they tuned differently or?
Well, right now they're all tuned differently because I'm trying to learn the Whitesnake and Deep Purple catalog, and they have tuned differently through the years many times. So I have D, one in standard, one in drop C sharp, and one standard 5-string as well, because David has done a lot of different tunings over the years, and we're doing some of the Deep Purple stuff as well and different live arrangements. So I'm sitting learning them, whatever they are, on YouTube in the key of that tour, and then putting it onto a D. So my brain is jumping tunings a lot these days.
How long is your tour for? When does it start?
We do rehearsals in April, so that starts in a couple of weeks, and then we go to Europe for 3 months starting May. So May, June, July in Europe, and then a very short break, and then North America for the rest of the year, and then hopefully Japan and South America in 23. So it's 2 years.
Wow, that's exciting.
Hopefully nothing gets us, and it's
knock
like
on wood.
No, exactly. It's like
no very vibe or whatever we're up to.
How about you guys? Who's going out next?
We start rehearsals April 1, and then
my birthday.
Woo! Oh, happy birthday. Yeah, we have Coachella up kind of first, and then a total US leg, then Europe, Glastonbury, kind of the Europe festival circuit, and then back US again, and then some unannounced stuff I think that's coming up as well. So we're kind of out until what seems like the end of August, September from April. So yeah, and then into next year.
Amazing. That's all with Phoebe?
Yeah, all Phoebe. Yeah.
Awesome.
So busy. We haven't been back to Europe since the pandemic, or even before that, I think. We had kind of not been there for a little while. So I'm excited to kind of go back. It's been a long time.
Nice.
And Nikki, you guys are are you going to tour your record?
Well, right now we just have the Bottle Rocket in May, and I think they're planning something for maybe July and August. We just don't know what that is yet. But yeah, hopefully that will happen along with all of our other tours happening with everyone. But yeah, I just we'll see what happens. I'm like really looking forward to starting again.
Eva, have you got your band picked for your own stuff?
Yeah, it's changed a few times. Yeah, I don't have it picked out right now. I was talking to like all the folks from the Pink Band, and they were going to be my band. When I was going to do it back in December, and it was but then the whole new strain happened, and all that kind of went away, and everyone's busy now. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I might be putting together. I might have an old band getting back together. My old band called Telstar, and we might be doing some shows at Pappy and Harriet's actually out in the desert.
My neighborhood. Awesome.
Yeah, and if that's the case, these guys played on my first record. So if that's the case, we're gonna like be playing each other's songs. So we'll be doing some songs. So
oh my God, let me know if you guys are coming out here. I hope I'm here.
Yeah. I sure will.
Cool.
I sure will. So we'll see.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, at least you've got the bass player set, so there's one.
What's that?
At least you've got the bass player set. Yeah.
I was with the idea of because I sing on my stuff, so I was thinking of maybe doing something else, but I was like playing guitar or I don't know, doing something else. But I was like, I don't know. I really enjoy singing and playing at the same time. There's just something really, really fun about it. I feel like it's a good challenge, like an extra challenge for my brain. And so I think I'm just going to play bass and sing. And
awesome.
Yeah, look for some other peeps to come help me out. So we'll see. We shall see. Yeah. So Emily, what about a good piece of advice that you've gotten over the years? Anything anyone's told you that stuck out?
Not from other musicians, but I had like a friend who he's like a cross-dressing wrestler in Japan. For like a weird throw thing. But he was like back in Australia, I think like around the time that I was kind of thinking about it was time to kind of make the jump, and he was like, it's never the most talented people that are successful, it's the people that work the hardest. And I think that really stuck with me, that like, you know, everyone's from a different background and has, you know, access to different opportunities and things like that. And if you want something to really work hard at it, then, you know, you're probably in a better chance to get what it is that you want. And that really stuck with me. And I kind of try and take that mentality that working the hardest is important. Because sometimes I feel like I was like catching up, where I was like, oh, there's no music, you know, there's no music store here. You couldn't even buy a bass in this town if you wanted to. I think I bought my first bass on eBay. Sight unseen. So yeah, I think that was like something that I still kind of think about all the time, that yeah, working hard is really important.
Yeah, I love that. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of eBay, I bought my first Thunderbird on eBay.
Really?
Cool. Turned out great. I love it. It's trying, you know, and
do you still have it?
Yeah, for sure. It's actually a little bit hard to play in extreme weather because it has no paint on it, so it sucks in all the water and starts to get like the F starts to get a little wonky. And so I leave it at home now, but I actually love that it's just raw. But I originally I had borrowed Brian's P bass when we first started, but then it got stolen from a small club called the Silver Lake Lounge after we played. And then I had renter's insurance though, so I recommend everyone get that. And then
thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, without that, we couldn't have gotten the Thunderbird on eBay. I was like, hey, Brian, can we replace it with a Thunderbird? And he's like, okay, let's go for it. And I then started my love affair with Thunderbirds.
So is that what you use mainly now, or Thunderbirds?
That's pretty much all I play. I just really love. Now they're so top heavy and awkward. Like when I play a regular or a different, you know, Fender, another bass, it's like I'm standing weird because I'm used to standing a certain way. But I just like it sustains well for me. It just works, I think, the best for our music. But I just, yeah, once I find something, I just kind of love it and stick with it. But not that there's not a lot of great other basses around there, but I just think it works really well, especially with the Ampeg. I think it sustains really well with it. The combination, once I got that combination, then I felt like I had what I always wanted. Before that, I played a Galen Kruger, which is another great amp. But really cemented. I feel like things started to cement in our band, and once I got that, I felt like we had what I felt like we needed for the bass.
And what's the amp that you use now? What's the Ampeg amp?
Just a SVT Classic 810. Did I say that all right? And a tube amp. I didn't know if I'd be able to travel with a tube amp because they're more sensitive, but it's worked out great. So I just what do you guys use for your Ampeg amps?
I'm the same as you.
Yeah, I feel like you can't go wrong. Or
I'm about to go into the 4 Pro. Yeah,
the 4 Pro.
I'm about to literally rack mounting them this week. The 4 Pros, and and the SVT Classics as well on festival backlines. I mean, you can't go wrong with several 8x10s.
Yeah.
Several. Oh, I only get one 810.
Well, it depends on the gig. In fairness, it's like we are allowed more, on a bigger. And then when you go into a club or a theater, it's like I can only have one, but the guitar players have 4.
No way. That's not fair.
I know. And for a while, we used in-ears on stage. And so they were starting to ask like, hey, do you want to take off your bass amp? And I'm like, no, that's for me, what I feel underneath the stage. So
I agree. I'm just doing this now at the new gig because it's all in-ears as well. And I've done both. I've done a lot of in-ear gigs and you get used to it. But then I love live monitors. I'll always love live monitors. But when they start taking away the back line as well, it's like, hold on a minute. I got to feel something.
And I also think it's for the people in the front who aren't getting the big speakers.
And Nikki, I want to hear what advice you've gotten over the years that's helped you.
I can't think of anything right now. I guess
from anybody or your advice. Yeah, what's your advice?
I don't know. My advice is always, if you want to be a musician, always live under your means. Whatever your means are, like just don't buy new stuff. Don't, because what I saw a lot growing up, like with people who are not always, but like in bands and stuff, it's like once you get that responsibility, you have car payments, then you start getting a real job, and then you can't play. Then it's like the slow transition into like a non-musician world. But as much as you can, just go without, so that it gives you choices, so that you don't have to get a real job. That's the whole goal, right? Not getting a real job.
Yeah, you have more freedom.
It gives you freedom. Yeah. So I used to I couldn't go out to eat. I wouldn't do anything, but then I was like, I have freedom now. So it makes a huge difference in longevity of an artist's life.
Cool. Awesome. So we have a question from the internet. Who is the artist you have the most fun playing with? Anybody?
Who's going first?
I'm trying to think. We've toured with so many people, but I'll let you guys go first.
I mean, for me, I feel like I have fun. It's hard to pick one because they're all so much fun in different ways, and they're all different people, and everyone has their own energy and their own chemistry. And I'm having fun anytime I'm out there playing, personally. So I have fun playing at at Pappy and Harriet's. I'll have fun playing like little gigs. I just played like at a wedding, and like that was really fun. So I feel like all the artists, all all the bands that I play with, I'm having a great time because I get to play. Personally.
I think smaller shows are actually more fun because once you get into like bigger realm, then it's like sterile, you know, everything looks the same backstage or, you know, but like the smaller places and you get to be really close to people.
Like every artist
before
different,
COVID,
like yeah, exactly. Well, like you said, Eva, it's like every art is different. Like it's just so fun what everybody brings to it, especially when you're in like that kind of hired gun realm and you're constantly changing bandmates and sussing it out. I mean, I forever will say Dee Snider is like the most fun person on stage just because he's still got the energy of an 18-year-old. But then again, like some studio stuff has just been magic, you know, with different artists. And I can't wait to get out with Coverdale and that gang because they're just pure high energy as well. But everybody is different. And then, you know, the pop realm being hired into more like TV gigs where they sort of tell you to stay in the background and you're not. And then you go out with a rock band, they're like, go for it. So everything is different, like you said, and it's so fun playing like little tiny clubs and then playing big festivals because you're feeding off the audience and, you know, just having fun playing music. And we all do it for that reason.
Yep, that's right.
How about you, Emily?
I feel like I've been lucky enough to like just play with great people, full stop. I don't think I've ever really, at least not recently in the last kind of 5 years, played for anyone that wasn't fun, which has been really nice. And yeah, we're all friends, so I feel like it's being on the road with your friends. Like, what more could you really ask for? But I always really enjoy like the support bands and festivals and just like really like old theaters. I feel like they're really fun to play. So those are kind of the things that I look forward to, like the different kind of venues on tour and the different other bands that you get to kind of like find from playing with lots of different people. That's probably the funnest thing for me, is being exposed to other musicians and new music that maybe I wouldn't find otherwise if I wasn't playing those shows with the artists that I play with. So yeah,
festivals are always great to play because you get to see so many other bands at once. It's like bands coming into, it's like a dog park for bands. It's like you get to go,
true. It's so true.
Yeah, totally. You see a little bit of everyone. It's chaotic and no one's comfortable because it's just like you're thrown into this field or whatever it is that just yesterday was an open, empty field, and now it's like this metropolis.
Yeah, like everything's so timed and like
you can't,
you know,
you rarely can sound check, and they're just like go.
I love the chaos of that in some respect. I think
and that's where usually they would tell me, they're like, sorry, only band on the stage, and I'd be like, I am in the band, you know, multiple times.
Like no band girlfriends. They're like, where?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, what? I'm about to go on stage, excuse me. But you know, I understand because it's just a situation where everyone's just like been brought together for 8 hours and then you leave, and then it's like, it is fun. Those are fun times.
Dog park for band, like that.
I love that. I love that.
I have to remember that. It's very
so
appropriate.
It's so true, though. It's a perfect description. I was just talking to a couple of friends for like the European festivals that are going ahead this year. And you're looking at, because usually they're like Thursday to Sunday, and you see the poster. You're like, all your friends are playing, but different days. Like, shit, we were only on a Friday. You were there Thursday. Fuck. It's like.
I love like leaving a little surprise. Like I hide, if I have a friend on like a day after us, I'll like hide something in the artist area and like leave a clue.
Oh, that's cute.
That is such a cute idea.
Yeah. I love that.
I used to put time capsules on the tour bus. Like
that's awesome.
Like we would put little like notes or whatever and like hide it behind the phone in the back lounge that no one ever uses. You know, whenever like hide a little thing. And like one time we actually got the same bus a few years later. I was like, let's see if the time capsule's still there. And it was still there.
Because no one uses that phone.
No one uses the phone.
Wow.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm going to check all buses now, Eva. Everywhere else. This entire summer, I'm going to be looking for Eva's time capsules.
So what are do you have anything you do to get ready for a show when you're about to go on stage? Is there any sort of anything you do to get psyched up for the gig? Anything you do, any ritual that you do that you practice?
I always take a nap right before. And then I wake up about 45 minutes before. And then the guys always laugh at me because I'm still curling my hair about 7 minutes before. I'm just like still like, because I want to be just fresh and ready to, and then I have coffee and then I'm like ready to go. Because I want to give it my all. I don't want to be tired, or I don't, just usually during the day when we tour, I'll go out to like museums or go to a park or somewhere so that I don't feel like I'm just going from the bus to the backstage to, I want to feel like I'm getting a little piece of the city that we're in. So usually I'm exhausted, then I take a nap. And I remember there was one time we were playing with Muse and we were playing in Boston at that basketball arena, but I couldn't like figure out how to get back. Yeah, I couldn't figure out like how to get back in. And then I was taking the subway with everyone who was coming to the show, and they're like, "You're going to be late." Like, oh my god. Yeah, that, and also we played at Madison Square Garden in New York, and I could not get back in. Like I went to go mail. I always send postcards back home. I went to, there's a giant post office across the street, and I was like, I ended up going through the front door, just like, and they're like, "It's okay, she's playing," because I couldn't get in the backstage. It's really, really tight security there, but anyways, those are just things where I'm like, help.
I'm playing. I swear I need to be on stage in 10
like
minutes.
Climbing on the front, like trying to get on the stage. I'm like, somebody help me up so I can go on.
Oh my god.
But that's why I like playing smaller places where you just go outside of the post office and you come right back in. But that is like a half-hour security going on there. So, but anyways,
it's a lot.
Yeah. What else?
Tanya, what about you? Do you have a pre-show thing?
Well, similar to you, Nikki, if there's time, like I'll always go out and about in the city I'm in, because I want to kind of get almost away from music for a few hours and then come back. And then physically, I love yoga. I'm a big yoga head, so I'll do a lot of stretching before, because I stomp around a lot on stage. I jump around a lot. I have heavy hair and a heavy bass, so I need to like stretch out. So I'll generally, the hour or so before, be doing some type of yoga flow and just warming up, because old injuries, and just really trying to get your hands warmed up, and not eating too soon before the show, like making sure you have a good hearty healthy meal a couple hours out, but you're not going on like just carved out in a carb coma. So trying to stick to that routine. And for me, actually, tour, it's funny because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you must party so heavy on tour." It's like, no, actually get healthier, because I want to be in that zone of like working out most days, or just yoga, or just being fresh, like you said, Nikki. You want to give it your best on stage. You don't want to be lethargic and burnt out. So, but yeah, definitely just like physically stretching out, and lots of breathing, and healthy food, and all the very un-rock and roll stuff is exactly what I do. It's not rock and roll at all.
Yeah, it's surprising how un-rock and roll it actually really is sometimes.
Oh my god, it's hilarious. It's like, no, that died a long time ago. Because it's such a hard business.
Yeah.
I feel like a little similar. I try and like really get to go and see the city, and I started taking like film camera photography on the last tour, so that was kind of like my little hobby. But in terms of getting ready for the show, I feel like I have to play the set the day of the show. That's like my mental kind of warm up, and we were lucky enough to kind of have a yoga teacher on tour.
Awesome.
So that was great. And then I'll just kind of like try and meditate for a little bit and just kind of get in the zone. Same thing, not eat. I kind of have like a 2-hour rule pre-show. I'm not eating before then, just in case, something doesn't really settle in my stomach. But I started taking these, I got COVID like right before our last tour. And I started taking these like royal jelly energy shots, because I don't like drinking coffee before a show. I just don't like the way that it kind of like reacts with my hands. And I started taking these like royal jelly, like health shots for energy half an hour before the show. And I am obsessed with them now, and I swear by them.
I'll just share what that is. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Share a link.
Yeah. They were the best. I think you can buy them from like Whole Foods and stuff like that. But I would take that as like my little energy boost, and it would make me feel really great and good about the show. And I have this thing where I was like listening to this podcast about was like high kind of profile athletes and like their psychology. And there's like studies done about like positive thinking and like saying things out loud and like, I've done this before, I'm going to do this again. This is like, you know, this is going to be easy. This is going to be fun. And I feel like that really, when I do that, it really brings like a different kind of level to the show when I'm really focusing on having fun and being present and playing. So I've tried to really, same thing, like so on rock and roll. Because I'm in bed as soon as I walk off stage to like take off my makeup and like, you know, cleanse and all of that, moisturize and get into bed and watch my true crime shows.
Oh my God, yes. So rock and roll. So rock and roll.
But yeah, really trying to be really health conscious because, you know, you're living in a bus or a van for like months at a time away from your friends and family. And so I feel like mental health is so important. So really trying to get like a routine of taking care of yourself has been like a thing for me.
Yeah. Gives
Absolutely.
you longevity. How about you, Miss Gardner?
Yeah, well, on the Pink Tour, we're lucky because we have yoga written into the daily schedule.
Yes.
On our show days. So
Great.
it just makes all the difference. I mean, our last run was 2.5 years. So it's like, again, longevity, right? You're going for the long game. And how do you keep yourself in shape, not just physically, but also, mentally, emotionally, dealing with away from your loved ones and it's stamina. So definitely yoga is a big part of it. The band girls started doing Qigong actually before the shows as well, which has been really, really great. And if we don't have time for like a long yoga thing, we just do like 20 minutes of Qigong in the dressing room. And it's really good for centering and just giving you a, just kind of like a little tune-up, like a mini tune-up before the show, especially since you're in a different city every day and there's a lot of energy that you're putting out and also receiving. So it's a good, Qigong's been amazing. And so, same thing, like coffee before the show. I have to be careful with that because it's a long set. And
how long is your set?
About an hour and a half. Almost 2 hours. So just and as you go, you know, your routines change too. I find it depends like what you need at the time kind of changes also depending on where you are, the time of year it is, what the seasons, and just being aware of listening to your body and just being aware of what you need at the time, I think is really important, because it's not a natural, it's not a natural way of life really for people, right? Like we don't get a lot of sunlight, like a lot of us are vitamin D deficient. And so we do what we can. Okay, we have a question here. Who are your all-time favorite bass players? Who wants to take this?
I'm going to just shout out Colin Greenwood immediately because he goes under the rain. I love him so much because you never see him in anything. He never shows up anywhere. It's like, I think every bass player is such a tight community. We all sort of know each other. We've all met most of our bass idols at bass hangs. And obviously there's all the legends we could list here all day, but I've always been a massive fan of how he plays because it's so fucking different. Like you listen to Radiohead songs, you're like, he came in on the 19th bar and then he left for another verse to do. It's like so creative and just, I've always been a massive fan of his. And obviously the Pinos and the classics, the Jackos, and I'd be here all day, obviously, if I listed everybody. A lot of local players too, a lot of friends of ours. So if we had another hour, I'd start listing them why and who. But Colin, I always something about his bass playing that's just so unique.
I think everyone who plays in Radiohead is such a unique player. I mean, they're all bringing in so much.
I'm gonna go with Rocco. Rocco from Tower of Power.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah, I just feeling that groove and like such a like a freight train, just those eighth notes, just really driving the stuff. And again, not always the most predictable parts, not always the most predictable lines. You're like, wait, what was that? What did you just do there? And figuring out those bass lines is always a lot of fun. So definitely loving some Rocco. Emily, Nikki?
Nikki?
Yeah, no, it's like my mind is like, I love melodic bass players. So like Teron Porter from the Doobie Brothers.
Very cool.
And then and then I have to say like Kim Deal and Kim Gordon were great influences on just like seeing women out there. I don't know, I can't think of anything right now. So, I mean, there's so many, it's just a little bit overwhelming to think of, but in general, I'm drawn to melodies and, you know, things that it doesn't even have to be like a crazy amount going on, just something a little extra that makes it unique. That's what I'm always looking for in bass lines, like Carol Kay too, of course.
I was gonna say the Queen Bee, Carol Kay.
That was one of my things I wanted to do. I was like, oh, I'm gonna, you know, you can write to Carol Kay and get like her how she, you know, her vision of bass, how she plays, and she has tutorials. And I was like, I'm gonna get right on that because
when I first moved, she's amazing. I interviewed her when I very first moved to the US.
Oh, really?
To her house, and it was wild watching her.
Yeah, I think she's very open to like, you know.
Oh, totally.
But I have to admit that I got a big packet of stuff sent from her that I still need to go through. But someday that would be
amazing.
I had a lesson with her.
Awesome.
You did?
Which was a lot of fun too. It's just like it was a lesson plus like story hour. You know, it was amazing.
Yeah. That woman has the best stories.
When did you see her? How long ago is that?
It was it was a long time ago. At least 10 years ago. But it was really cool to meet her.
It's just
talk about breaking glass ceilings. Her stories. I mean, she was in a. Thankfully, there's so much more female presence in the music industry now, like serious top-notch players. But she was in a time where it was just her. It's like just her, and she was so fucking badass. It's unbelievable.
yeah. Emily, favorite bass player?
Ooh, I mean, I gotta say Kim Gordon and Kim Deal and like Melissa Aftermore, and I feel like now Colin Greenwood and like I find like Peter Hook is like a really big
so good.
idol of mine because he just kind of approaches the bass almost like a guitar in a lot of ways, and really different but still very melodic and very recognizable. But those were definitely it for me, like growing up and now. And I played with Kim Gordon, which was kind of insane.
Cool.
Was that occasion?
That was for her solo tour, her first solo tour. I played bass for her, which was crazy. Where I was like, I got a text, and I was like, "What does Kim Gordon need a bass player for?" But yes, absolutely, I would love to. So intimidated to be in that room, but she was more than lovely and very sweet and a true artist in terms of knowing like what she wanted for her music and stuff like that. So I think that was like a huge thing for me, being able to play with her and for her, when she's kind of the reason I play bass, which was kind of great.
Wow, what a moment for you.
That's cool.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, we have another question. Since this is an event for International Women's Day, can you share some unique challenges that women musicians face and your advice / strategies for dealing with those challenges successfully?
Everyone's like, with their fake beards.
Exactly.
I think, like I was saying to you, I say this all the time. I feel like the key is always just normalizing being female in any industry. So I think challenges wise, I'm sure we've all had this. There's that kind of, you've had guys usually just stupid shit like, do you need help plugging in your instrument or some like presuming you can't do something. But honestly, I think that a lot of this stuff doesn't come from malice. I think there's just the more prominent we become in the industry, the more normal it becomes. So as far as like advice and strategies, is just to keep holding other female players up and normalizing it. And I tend to veer away from like like the categorizing like all girls, because there's no like all guys. This is all play music together, and then it becomes normal. So as far as the strategy goes, yeah, I think just keep fucking being a badass out there doing what you do, and you know, it's that then you make it normal, and then you are showing young female players coming up, oh, cool, so that's a normal job now. But yeah, I think it's just always living by example in every aspect of life, and I think that's more powerful than like focusing in, because of course there's going to be ignorance across everything, and of course, like, you know, there's a huge history with women and minorities and everything, but it's better to just come out of it and normalize it and go forward. So I think that would be my initial thoughts on the question.
Yeah, I found that like when you do get the backhanded compliments or the weird like the band only on stage moments, it's not approaching it with like it's being sensitive to not being angry or overreacting to things like that. And for me personally, you know, I just will let those things just it's not, like you said, it's not like malicious, or it's not trying to be, it's just coming out of ignorance or generational or whatever it is, but just approaching it with like not making a massive deal out of it, and then let your playing do the talking, you know, let your attitude on stage and your presence on stage and you are the player do the talking for you, because I think it's the moments that you like make a big argument out of it and then get in someone's face is actually counterproductive.
Completely.
In my experience. And normalizing it, like you said, right? Just making,
because every one of those, they're all opportunities, right? Like, so the backhanded compliments like, oh, you're really good for a girl, or the band only on stage.
Well, like, Carol Kay used to say, when people would say that to her, she would say, oh, you're really good for a guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would be her way of like neutralizing that, you know?
What's it like to be a female player? Very much the same as a male player.
Yeah.
But yeah, like normalizing it, because anyone that says it, usually it's just out of ignorance or not experiencing it before. So there's your moment to educate and normalize it again. It's like, oh, you know, would you say that to a male band member that walked off stage? You're pretty good for a guy. It'd be, and then they stop.
Yeah, it would be nice. It'd be nice if there didn't have to be like a woman's day. Like the day there's a man's day, then we'll know that the women have taken over. But yeah, like I'm just thinking. I was thinking for a second at the time that we were backstage and the women's bathroom was turned into a men's bathroom. So there's two men and then handwritten men. And I was like, well, where do I go? Like they didn't mean to be, you know, to forget about me as like one of the only women on the tour, but they were just thinking we have like 50 guys and only 2 bathrooms. So I was like, well, you haven't thought of me, but I just, you know, you just roll with it and hopefully, you know, like you said, nothing's done out of malice, but there are things that happen when you're a woman on the road, just because the numbers are in general a lot lower, and hopefully someday they won't be. But it is interesting, the little things you have to deal with that just come up, you know. But in general, people are, you know, everyone's lovely, and you know, and we have a great time, and and I don't want to be considered, you know, a woman that is playing with a, you know, with a guy band, but just, you know, sometimes you have to roll with it. I'm not saying that's right, but I'm just saying like in general, people are pretty woke, but then sometimes things go through the cracks, but try to have a good attitude and remember we're just here playing music and we're here for, you know, to have fun and yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we're here to play, right?
Exactly.
We're here to play, and so are the guys. And I would love for it not to be like women and men. You know, it's both. It's like we're just musicians, and but I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad we could come together and just and talk about it and talk about what how we've, you know, lived our lives as musicians, and hopefully, yeah, it'll even out someday.
Yeah. if you look at how far we actually have come from Carol Kay's day,
Sure.
it is getting better, and even from from when I first started, and it is becoming more normalized. There is more of a presence. So I would say we're headed in the right direction, and having moments like this and talking about it and discussing it, I think
there's a really tight sisterhood as well. I think like bass players and drummers tend to be like this. And the guitarists and singers, too many solo egos. Nobody messes. I also love the guitar, but it's true. Like the bass community and the women, yes, it's a smaller pool than there are obviously of male bass players, but there is a really tight sisterhood, which is awesome. And I think that it's only women never pit each other against each other. It's only like the men that presume that we would, but we're actually all very tightly bonded because it is something that everyone wants to protect and lift up, which I think is great. And you just reminded me of Carol Kay. One of the things she said when I'm interviewing her, we were talking about that question we all hate, what's it like to be a female bass player? And she's like, I don't know, I don't get up every morning. And I'm like, today I'm a female bass player. How shall I go about my day? But yeah, how about you, Emily? Any particular advice?
I mean, I've definitely had people come at me with malice and be
really?
like, oh yeah. But those are the people that usually come back like a few years later and ask you to listen to their demo. So, that's kind of like how I overcome that. But I feel at the same time, there are so many really supportive people, both on all kind of spectrums of gender, that are super supportive. And I feel like people are really making an effort to hire and like diversity and represent that, which I think is really important, because I feel like growing up, if you can't see you represented, then it's a little harder to imagine it. And it's been really great seeing, so many great people kind of like put each other's names forward, or, offer advice, or, make that little extra effort to maybe hire someone who represents somebody that doesn't look like them. And that's been like a really interesting thing to kind of see change over the last few years, that I think is really important. But yeah, I usually just get like, oh, you're the singer. And I was like, I can't sing to save my life very well. But yeah, the important thing is to just like, most of the time it's just like an ignorance thing, and you're there to do your job, and usually people feel pretty embarrassed afterwards, after the comment. But yeah, I think even just being here with all of you has been like such a really important thing for other people to kind of see that there are people out there playing music that happen to be women, and it's more and more common.
I personally I prefer seeing a band that has a woman in it. I think it makes it more interesting, and I usually think, and I think I'm biased, but that women are often better bass players. But they feel the rhythm more. But
well, there's studies about how women actually hear differently in different frequencies as well, which is really interesting. But yeah, I think if I hadn't have grown up being able to see women playing bass, I think it would have been hard for me to kind of imagine that is a career path. So I always try and make it my goal to be really encouraging to other people also coming up that are maybe younger than me, and giving them advice and time when they need it as well. I try and give it back wherever I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, happy International Women's Day to you, ladies.
Thank you. To you too. Thank you for hosting this.
Group of people. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Where can we find everybody? Where can we find you online, Tanya? You want to go? What are your socials?
I pretty much only do Instagram these days. I'm like slowly deleting social media because I prefer the real world, but I choose one. So yeah, I'm just at Tanya O'Callaghan _official.
Instagram. Okay, Nikki, what about you?
For band stuff, just at SSPU on Instagram, or Silversun Pickups on Facebook. I'm not really good at this, cool. But yeah, Facebook, and we're on Twitter as well as SSPU.
Awesome. And Emily?
Thank you.
My name at all of the social media. I feel like I'm on all of them, maybe not as active on most, but yeah, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'm mostly watching cat videos, but
There's so many good ones out there.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
obsessed.
I hope I see you all in the festival dog park for musicians over
Yeah.
the
Oh
summer.
my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my God, so much fun.
Keep an eye
Hope to
out.
see it.
Yeah,
Hope to see
Eva,
you at the
I
dog
hope
park.
to see you,
See you at the dog park.
at Bottle Rock. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you
Thank
all
you.
for joining us
Thank
for
you.
our Ampeg SVT time,
Woohoo.
and look forward to seeing you all in the future out there doing the thing.
Back on the road, ladies. Let's
Back
do
on the
it.
road.